Hello everyone, welcome to Sharmit. In this session, we are going to discuss about another very important topic of SVG, that is Animate element with freeze concept. In previous session also we discussed about the animate element, but at that time we were not using the freeze concept. But for this session we are going to talk about freeze concept as well. Why? Because in projects, yes, there are some scenarios where we are supposed to perform an animation in a way that at some point, at some moment, it should got freezed instead of restarting. So how to implement that thing? This we will be discussing in this particular session. Okay. But before we proceed with session, I would like to recommend you to please go and check out the previously released sessions first, because they all are in proper sequence and sync. So if you follow them sequentially, then it would be very easy for you to understand the ongoing topic. Because for time being, we are just focusing on the main thing, that is how to perform animation with freeze concept. Clear? Alright. And why I am saying this? Because here, like, we all know that we are going to use animate element, and in previous session we discussed about the basic things of animate element, like what all attribute we can pass, right? So in the same thing we are just adding one more concept, which is freeze concept. So that's why this session is in the continuation of the previous session. Alright, so let's start the program. And here if you look at the program, the code is very simple and straightforward. We are just using one title in the head section. There are few comment lines, and then there is one heading which is showing HTML by Sharmit. Now after this heading, what we will be doing here, we will write here H2. In H2 we will mention another concept, or the title, or you can say the heading. The heading would be animate element with freeze. So this is the concept that we are going to learn. Now we can also put one thing here, animate element with freeze in SVG. And we all know that everything is moving around SVG, so it's time to include the SVG. So let's firstly save it and refresh the browser. Once you refresh it, you will see that HTML by Sharmit and animate element with freeze is in SVG. These are the two headings that we are showing here. Now as we know that we need SVG, so let's include the SVG. So in case of SVG, we will put the required attributes like width. So we will put here width as 1000, height would be 500. Then we will put here style. In style we will put border 5px solid black. Okay. Now you can save it and refresh the browser. So once you refresh, okay, something is wrong here. We have provided width, style, border. Not sure what is wrong. Let me rewrite this thing, style. So if you think there is something wrong, just remove that portion only and then rewrite it like border 5px solid black. Something is here, like you can see there are two codes, so we need to remove one code, save it, refresh it. Perfect. So now you can see one SVG has been included on the screen. Okay, now on that SVG only we are going to draw one circle. On that circle we will perform animation, and during the animation we will introduce the freeze concept. Okay, so firstly let's draw a circle. So to draw the circle, what you need to do, you just need to write one element which is circle element. So, and like we have already discussed each and every shape in a separate session, so I'm assuming that you all know like how to draw the shapes like circle, rectangle and other shapes. Okay, so let's add circle element. In this circle element we will put cx value equal 150, cy value equal 150, radius equal 50, and then we will put another thing which is style to fill red color. Perfect. Okay, Now you can save this and refresh the browser. So once you refresh the browser, you will see that one red circle has been added with a radius of 50. Now what we want to do here, we want to perform animation on this circle, and in that scenario it should go from left side to right side in an animation way. How? Let me show you. So for that we will use another element, which is Animate. So just add Animate element here. In this Animate element, we will just put some basic attribute first, which we have already covered in last session, and then I'll introduce you with the freeze concept. So firstly, I'll put attribute name, which would be CX. Then we will use begin. I'll tell you again what is the meaning of this, but firstly I'm writing it. After begin we will write DUR, which would be 3 seconds. Then we will put from, which would be not one, it should be 150. Then we will put another thing, which is 2, and here we will mention 90%. Perfect. Now you can save this, and after a save you can refresh the browser. So once you refresh the browser, you will see that the circle is started moving from left to right. Okay, why? Because we have performed this thing. And what we are going to notice here, we are going to notice here one thing, that this circle after an end, it again goes to the first place from where it is started. But we don't want to do this. Instead of that, we want to freeze it somewhere here. Why? So let's say if it is started from here, it will came here, and here I want to stop it. So to stop this thing, we need to include a freeze concept. Now some of you might be thinking like there should be any attribute with the name freeze. No, that's a tweak here. No, there is no any direct element, or not element, there is no attribute that we can use directly with a freeze name. Instead of that, we are supposed to use another attribute, which is fill, and here we are supposed to write freeze. So what freeze element will do, it will allow you to freeze the ball in the right corner. Let's refresh it. You can see it started moving, but this time it is not going to their initial position. Instead of this, it is stopped here in this place. That means animation is implemented with freeze concept. Okay, earlier what was happening there, like it was simply coming from left to right and then again going to its initial position, but now you can see it has stopped on right position itself because we have implemented the freeze concept. Clear? So this is how you can use animate with freeze, and this is the main thing that we have learned in this session, because other thing we have already covered in last session, but that moment we would forget to include this freeze element. That's why we are covering it separately. Okay, because it's a kind of difference. Now let's understand the requirements. Suppose we want to do some kind of animation where we want to show some lines of ball. Okay, likewise we have more circles here, and we want to do animation in a way that every ball will after a few seconds it should came here and stop here. So to implement this thing, what we can do, we can use this fill freeze. Clear? Now I'm assuming that you all know about the attribute, but still if you don't know, let me tell you. Like in attribute name, we will put the name of the attribute which we want to change. Then we will use begin for 0 seconds. That means it will start from the 0 second. DUR is 3 seconds. DUR means duration, so it will work for the 3 duration. Then from value, we will put the value of initial value of CX, which is 150. 2 means 90%, so it will go from 150 to 90%. Okay, and then we have fill, which will include the freeze. Don't get confused that fill is only used for the filling the color. No, it's not for filling the color, it is for freezing also. Clear? One more important thing, please make sure that animate element should be in the circle. If you keep it outside the circle, it won't work. Okay, So yeah, these are some basic things are moving around the animate element with freeze concept. I hope this session is clear to all of you. In the next session we will discuss few more things. So thank you for watching Tech Sharmit.